Hey guys, MrPokke here, back with another video, and today we will be taking a look at the brand new Honkai March 7th imaginary 4-star DPS unit in the Creator Experience server. And as always, Creator Experience server, it is not indicative of the final product, right? I'm going to be going through some of her team compositions, damage layout, what her performance is in Memory of Chaos, and I would say that March 7th, she brings about a pretty interesting dimension on the current Honkai meta. Without further ado, let's get into today's content. Subscribe! So jumping straight into March 7th's character kit. So in summary, I would say that March 7th, she kind of brings a new way to build around Han comps in the current format, right? So previously, as you've known from our older Han units like our Scylla, our Tang Heng, or even like Dr. Ratio, a lot of times when we use Han units, most of the time they are usually meant to be played as a hyper carry. You give them a lot of buffs and then they go ahead and make use of these buffs to snipe out these enemies one by one. Dr. Ratio and units like Topaz, they are going to be breaking away from the traditional hyper carry means because they are pretty much the follow-up team comp with Robin as well as Aventry. For March 7th, she is also looking to kind of break away from this traditional Han hyper carry mindset, which is granting an ally the buff of Shifu, right? So the Shifu, it basically gives her different kinds of benefits and effects, and we're just gonna jump in right now. So starting first with the basic attack, nothing too crazy, but most of the time you are gonna be using this basic attack, My Sword Zaps Demons, because once you designate a Shifu in a battle, you will pretty much never ever use this skill ever again, right? This skill does not have a cooldown, does not have a duration. That unit will be your Shifu for the entire match. So every single time March 7 dealing damage will either be from a basic attack or her enhanced basic attack, right? This also makes March 7 an excellent skill point generator because it's either gonna be the basic attack or the enhanced basic attack aside from the very first turn where she designates the Shifu. So do prioritize leveling up this basic attack because it also buffs up March 7's enhanced basic attack, which is gonna be Brows Be Smitten, Heart Be Bitten, has 3 initial hits of 80% multiplier and a 60% fixed chance to deal 1 extra hit up to 3 times. So this extra hit, it will include both additional damage multipliers as well as toughness multipliers, right? Note that this is only available after the talent action advance, which we're going to be discussing later. There are 2 ways to kind of make use of this. Number 1, which is going to be the DPS build. Without the ultimate buff, the enhanced attack can hit somewhere between 240 to 480% attack based on RNG, because you do have the additional hit of up to 3 times, which is an additional straight up double the multiplier, right? Another way to build this is going to be a break on the March 7th, where each individual extra hit will deal an additional 5 toughness bar damage. So this will allow March 7's enhanced basic to deal somewhere between 15 to 30 toughness damage. So having a support Shifu will double this, which we're going to be talking about later as well, and it can also be further improved by weakness break efficiency buffs such as Run Mei. For example, a single target ultimate usually deal around 30 toughness bar damage. For March 7th, you can potentially deal up to 90 toughness bar damage, which is equivalent to 9 unbuffed basic attacks, which is you can pretty much just instantly break any unit in the game right now if you have her set with a Run Mei as well as the RNG stars aligning, right? So that's going to be there. So going back into her skill, master its tea time, designates 1 ally as a Shifu, and then now our basic and enhanced basic will have different effects based on our Shifu. For the DPS paths such as Hunt, Erudition, and Destruction, we'll do additional damage of the Shifu's element to 20% of March 7's attack each hit. The basic attack deals 1 hit, and the enhanced base attack will deal 3 to 6 hits. And if you have the ultimate buff, that's going to be 5 to 8 hits, right? So the additional element is going to ramp up quite a little bit. But if we were to use a support path as a Shifu, such as Harmony, Nihility, Preservation, and Abundance, then our base toughness bar multiplier will increase by 100%, which is doubling our toughness bar damage. And yes, Nihility means that March 7 can make units like Aircron, Kafka, Blackstone as a Shifu for support as well. This will pretty much determine the different playstyles a player can have with March 7th. You can play her as a crit DPS, you can play her as a super break, or you could even try a hybrid break / crit DPS. There is no duration limit on this effect, like I mentioned at the start. So you can just use this skill once and you will never ever use this ever again. For the support path Shifu, the bonus toughness bar reduction is an increase to the base toughness damage, which means it is multiplicative with the weakness break efficiency buffs, right? Making it very, very nice. With a DPS path Shifu, our basic attack and enhanced basic attack will deal additional damage based on our element, so it is considered as a elemental damage percentage, which means that attack percentage sphere might be more worthy to run instead of imaginary damage sphere. And then her talent, Master I've Ascended. After we use an attack ultimate, we gain 1 charge up to 10 charges, and when we reach 7 charge, we immediately take action and enables an enhanced basic attack. This is pretty much exactly the same as Jade, somewhat. Jade doesn't take an action, whereas March 7th, her action value will instantly become 0, and then she can move again, right? You want your Shifu to be someone that can launch attacks as frequently as possible so that it will allow March 7th to get as many charges as possible. So units such as Pokke, Gallagher, Dr. Rachel with multi-hit instances will allow us to generate the highest number of stacks. And then you also wouldn't have to worry about the amount of targets hit by attacks. So it doesn't have to be an AoE target or like an erudition unit. As long as they do an attack, you are going to get the charge, right? But the charge gain from ultimate, it does not even have to be an attack. So Topaz ultimates can also provide March 7th an additional charge. While the ultimate that does attack will not grant us 2 charges, right? So keep that in mind. For March 7th, she cannot use a skill and she can only use her enhanced basic attack during this specific turn. So for this, you would want your March 7th to be faster than the Shifu after the speed buff, because like I mentioned, the skill does give our Shifu the speed buff, especially if they're in a similar speed, right? If you make your Shifu go before March 7th, then the action value advance will be completely wasted, because once Shifu goes, it gives March 7th the charge, and then a lot of value will be gone, right? So you want March 7th to go, then Shifu go, giving us a charge, and then March 7th can go right behind the Shifu again. Alright, lastly, for March 7th's ultimate, 240% single target multiplier, and the next enhanced base attack has 2 more initial hits, as well as 20% higher fixed chance to deal extra hits, which means instead of 60%, it is now 80%. Essentially improving our next basic to deal somewhere between 400 to 640% multiplier, and the base toughness bar damage will go between 25 to 40 up to 120 with all of their respective buffs. So the ultimate itself doesn't do that much damage, it is mainly focusing on the enhanced basic attack from March 7th. And then technique is just going to be regenerates 30 energy at the start and grants 1 point of charge per technique used by other allies up to 3, which basically allows March 7th to use the ultimate after the very first turn, which is very nice, right? So going to March 7th's traces, first of all, the minor trace, 28% attack, 24% crit damage, and 12.5% defense. The crit damage is very nice, defense a little bit wasted, the attack is not too bad. Overall, really solid tracers, especially for a completely free 4-star, right? And then for her major tracers, first one being Tide Tamer, after using enhanced basic attack, increase Shifu's crit damage by 60% and break effect by 36%, lasting for 2 turns. So this effect, currently we do not have a single unit as of now that can fully make use of both benefits at the same time. So probably might be saving for a future unit where they can scale with both crit damage and break effect, right? And trace to filigree, March 7th can deal toughness damage based on the Shifu's element. For example, if my Shifu is going to be Gallagher, then she can reduce the toughness of fire weak enemies, right? So that's pretty interesting. And last one, Swan's Roar, 25% action value for advance at the start of battle, basically a mini Wonwhack to ensure that March 7th designates a Shifu right at the start of battle, right? So that is gonna be the summary of March 7th's kit, and jumping into her Lightcone, some of the Lightcones that March 7th can use. After for very long time, in the night, which is Stilla's signature Lightcone, might be able to finally see some usage. Now, although she only gets 10% from March 7th Eidolon 1, she can run speed boots to gain somewhere between 4 to 6 Lightcone stacks. And March 7th as a unit, she doesn't exactly want to be extremely slow as well, so you definitely can consider running Stilla's Lightcone for March 7th. Other decent free-to-play alternatives are going to be Cruising and Stellar Sea, Sword Play, Only Silence Remains. Not too crazy, they're all valid options and should be roughly in the same ballpark as Stilla's Lightcone, but you will need to play around the Lightcone's condition. For example, Sword Play specifically, you will need to change the target and the damage buff will need to restart again. And Cruising and Stellar Sea, just know that the 16% crit rate only works on the targets with less than 50% health, right? So keep that in mind. Topaz Lightcone, Worrisome Blissful. Now, March 7th can activate Topaz Lightcone debuffs through a follow-up attacks from her Eidolon 2, which enables the crit damage vulnerability for the entire team, but this Lightcone should still be equipped on Topaz if they are paired together, since March 7th is extremely slow compared to Topaz and Numbeat, right? Lastly, sailing towards a second life. This is gonna be Boot Hill's signature Lightcone, which is probably gonna be March 7th's best installed Lightcone if you're gonna be running a Super Break March 7th. And it is unfortunately the only Hunt Lightcone in the entire game that works for Break Hunt units, right? So if you don't want to run this, then it's going to be a very big downgrade at Adversarial, which is the 3-star Lightcone, or River Flows in Spring for the speed buff, right? Then jumping into March 7th's potential relic combinations, pretty much any 2-piece will work since we don't really have a exact best in slot 4-piece. So 2-piece attack from Musketeer, Prisoner, Windstorm Valerius, or 2-piece speed from Messenger, or even the 2-piece damage from like Wastelander Banditry, or even Pioneer's Diver of the Dead Waters. They can all be pretty flexible for March 7th. It ultimately will depend on March 7th's substats, so she's very flexible. If you really want to min-max the absolute best 4-piece, it's likely going to be our 4-piece Musketeer, since it does have the basic attack buff, which will buff up her enhanced base attack, as well as a little bit of speed, right? So definitely something that March 7 can use. And if you're going to be going for a Super Break March 7, then Iron Cavalry is going to be the only option, right? You could use 4-piece Diver set, but this set does require 3 different debuffs to be active, and it also requires March 7 to inflict debuffs either through Topaz Ninja Lightcone or through Winner's Breaks. So it is a pretty niche set. Then for our 2-piece Planner Ornaments, Brutal Arena is definitely going to be a better slot because most of our damage is going to be coming from March 7 and Hunt's basic attack, as well as the crit rate is always going to be very nice. You could run March 7 with a Izumo set if you pair this with a Hunt Shifu, right? And this makes her incredibly easy to build because there are really no other conditions, and 12% crit rate is 12% crit rate, so very flexible. Space Ceiling Station or Glamoth, it is not too bad, but it does lack crit rate, so if you're going to be building a crit DPS March 7th, it probably won't be as ideal. And then for Super Break teams, you can either go for Talia or Calpagini Lantern. They're both pretty decent, right? So that's going to be that. And now moving on to March 7th's Eidolons. Mainly, there are going to be 2 Eidolons that kind of stands out, which is going to be the Eidolon 2 as well as the Eidolon 6, right? So first of all, her Eidolon 1, when Shifu is on the field, increase March 7 speed by 10%. I mean, that's pretty much it. Increases 10% speed buff, so nothing too crazy. Eidolon 2, Blade Dances on Waves Knights. After Shifu uses a basic attack or skill to attack an enemy target, March 7th immediately launches a follow-up attack and deals imaginary damage equal to 6% of her attack to the primary target. Additionally, triggers a corresponding effect based on Shifu's path and gains 1 point of charge. If there's no primary target available to attack, then it will attack a random enemy, triggering once per turn. This is a very important item for March 7th, as it will allow for 1 more charge per March 7th turn, which kind of ties back down to why March 7th can run a speed setup with speed boots and additional speed from like 2-piece speed, right? Just to make sure that we get as many charge stacks as fast as humanly possible. And it can also trigger on attack effects such as Robin's Concerto proc or Numbeat's action value advance, since it is considered as a follow-up attack. Also, generates some energy for March 7. So Eidolon 2 is definitely going to be extremely important. For Eidolon 4, at the start of turn, regenerates 5 energy. Honestly, doesn't change a lot of things, so not too much to talk about over here. And finally, Eidolon 6, me the best girl inside. After using Ultimate, increase crit damage dealt by the next enhanced basic attack by 50%. Pretty much a unconditional 50% crit damage buff. Will not benefit Super Break March 7 at all, but for crit March 7, then this is definitely going to be pretty decent, right? But nothing too crazy. So TLDR, March 7's Eidolon 2 is going to be the one that changes most of a kit. So now that is done, I'm just going to be going through the March 7th's actual team comps in her performance relative to Memory of Chaos, as well as show you a 1 run in Apocalyptic Shadows, right? There are basically 2 main teams that I found that will really benefit March 7 as of now. One is gonna be quote-unquote hyper carry team with March 7 featuring Robin, Bronya, as well as a Gather Chat Sustain. Somewhat reminiscent of the team comps that we run with Yingli, without the addition of Bronya, so something to keep in mind. And then another team I'm going to show you guys, which is going to be later on. But first of all, let's just take a look at what this comp has to offer. Casting our Gallagher as a Shifu, because Gallagher does have the additional action value advanced by 100% whenever we use his ultimate, which makes him the unit that can get the most amount of turns, right? So Robin is also going to instantly pop off her skill, March 7, going for the ultimate to charge out some enhanced stacks, doing a follow-up. Bronya buffing up our Robin, so that when Robin goes, we are going to be able to get the additional energy for our ultimate instantly. Boom, going in immediately, going right before the enemy takes a turn, right? So March 7 is going to go ahead and cast a basic attack. We generate some additional skill points. Same for Gallagher. March 7 does a follow-up, and Gallagher is going to cast his ultimate, which will also follow up with another action immediately. March 7 also at this point has 10 stacks, so she immediately takes action, pumping it up, breaking for 130,000, and Bronya is gonna once again buff up our Gallagher instead of March 7th because we want to give March 7th more stacks, right? So whenever our Gallagher hits, March 7th will always come back with a follow-up, so that is always gonna be very, very nice. Bronya once again giving us the entire team buff, and then we are just gonna hope that he doesn't stun March 7th. Okay, very nice game for the Gallagher. Gallagher just gonna keep doing his basic attack. March 7th, same thing, just gonna keep doing her basic attack as well. Then we're 7 stacks, immediately gains a turn, cast an ultimate first so that we can buff our next enhanced basic attack, dealing a decent moderate amount of damage into 191,000 damage. That was actually pretty impressive. And then buffing up our Gallagher from Bronya so that we can get another set from March 7th as well as the follow-up attack, right? So you always want to prioritize on gaining more charges instead of dealing more damage with March 7th. That's why buffing up the Shifu, or rather giving our Shifu more extra turns, will be more critical compared to giving March 7th more extra turns, right? So that is going to be kind of the idea around building this hyper carry team comp. Alright, we're gonna fight nothing too crazy, basically just Gallagher giving us the final hit, getting the extra follow-up, and March 7 is gonna come back in with another hit, breaking the battle at a roughly a 2-cycle clear on the first half. So honestly, not too bad myself for a relatively budget-friendly team. So that's gonna be March 7th with the hyper carry team comp. And another team comp that we're gonna be taking a look over here is gonna be March 7th with Opus, Aventurine, as well as Robin, which basically kind of slots in as the daughter ratio substitute. Just realized they're the same element, so that's quite interesting, right? So this is gonna be a performance in a follow-up team comp, which is pretty much the follow-up best and top team comps we have right now, especially with Aventurine as well as Robin. Topaz is gonna go ahead, do a little hit over here, gaining some charges for March 7th, and then we're gonna go for a Nambi hit, and then we do have an ultimate from Topaz, buffing it up, giving us the additional damage. And March 7th is gonna go ahead and get the extra stack into an enhanced basic for 53,000. Doesn't have Robin's buff yet, so it's probably gonna get better afterwards. We're gonna hit this one time so that we can trigger Nambi a little bit earlier. Getting the hit over here to Aventurine, not too crazy over there. Robin getting a little bit damaged, but it should still be fine. And Aventurine going for the basic, and right before we miss our turns from Topaz, we are gonna pop off Robin's ultimate after he goes, right? So Nambi, same thing, cast the skill and instantly casting our Robin ultimate. Get the follow-up from March 7th. And that's gonna be very, very nice. March 7th going for another basic attack into the target. Almost enough for the ultimate. Aventurine casting off the ultimate into a follow-up if we were to get lucky. Unfortunately, we didn't really quite get lucky there, so it is what it is. Going for the basic attack. Topaz going for the skill, I believe, and then March 7 is going to go for the ultimate. Alright, pretty nice follow-up from the March 7 over here. 41,000. Get the additional turn. Hopefully this is a one-shot. 151,000. Not quite enough, but we do get rid of the Decaying Shadow. Oh, we actually do get enough. Just barely. Did we get enough? We got killed for the MOC debuff, so it is what it is. So it is going to be a 1-cycle clear so far, and keep in mind, this is going to be against the Argenti side, right? And just to kind of wrap it up towards the end, March 7 actually got a little bit close to a dangerously low level there, but I think it should still be fine. Topaz going for the break, and this is going to be almost enough. Once we get our 7 stacks, then we're definitely going to be able to get rid of him. Oh, never mind, he read that to Nambi. So that is going to be that for March 7 and the follow-up team comp. Now, between both the traditional hyper carry as well as the follow-up team comp, I myself personally found a little bit more fun playing March 7th in this follow-up team comp. It might not be because of March 7th herself, it might just be because follow-up team comp with like Robin, it just works so nice, right? Especially with the way how Aventurine and Topaz just keep taking infinite turns. So that is gonna be my personal preference. Now, lastly, I just want to show off a little bit of a Apocalyptic Shadows clear with March 7th, Bronya, Robin, as well as Gallagher. We're just gonna go ahead, see this, buff it up, getting a little bit low, but we should still be fine, especially with Gallagher's buff, right? So Robin's gonna cast her ultimate, her skill into a follow-up, almost getting enough for the Robin ultimate. I just want to take a little bit more. One thing that I've noticed for March 7 in Apocalyptic Shadow is that we really do have to break fast enough in order to deal with Apocalyptic Shadows. At this point, I would say that Apocalyptic Shadow as a game mode is not really like a hunt game mode at this point. I think we already all know that. It is more like a break game mode. No matter what team comp you are, as long as you can break the little like tokens and minions and the mobs, you are going to be able to do considerable damage and you just get rid of the boss towards the end, right? So that's going to be that. March 7, taking the extra turn. 75,000, not too bad, especially without Bronya's ultimate. Going for the buff on March 7 to get another hit into an ultimate to buff up our entire team. Getting it a little bit here, but we're still relatively healthy, especially with Gallagher's healing over there. March 7 going for the follow-up into another basic attack because that's the only thing that we can do. We're never going to change our skill from the shift away, so we're always going to be running basic attack. Getting the additional action instantly. I do want to get this break first. I do get the break into an ultimate. Probably should use my ultimate first there, but you know what? It is what it is. Shouldn't have that big of a difference. 160,000 ultimate into a Gallagher ultimate to give Gallagher immediately 100% action value advance. Going for an additional hit into a follow-up attack. Bronya is now going to buff our Gallagher again in order to take another action. So when Gallagher goes, we are always going to get more stacks whenever we do that, right? So that's going to be that. Bronya going for the buff. And the rest of the stuff is kind of just rinse and repeat, so I don't really think there's too much to be said. So fast forward, and towards the end, almost there for the hit. 68,000 from Gallagher into a basic of 86,000, which is going to be inclusive of Robin's ultimate. And then March 7 going for the hit. One more time for March 7 with a Bronya buff, we are going to be able to get the final enhanced basic attack guarantee of Argentina at 264,000 for a very, very comfortable 3,665 points, right? So that's going to be a relatively healthy clear, if I can say so myself, well above the passing criteria of 3,300, right? So that's gonna be that. Now, one little note about March 7th and her placement in super break teams. From what I've discovered is that when we are gonna be running March 7th as like a super breaker with like Harmony, Trailblazer, Ramei, and Gallagher, an issue I found was she was not getting the stacks fast enough, especially without the help of Robin, which grants our entire team this additional action value advance. I would say that the best in-slot support for March 7th is gonna be Robin, because not only does she give March 7th the extra turn, she also gives our Gallagher the extra turn, right? And dual break team without Robin does feel kind of slow, kind of sucks to play with, which is why both of these team comps right now, Crit March 7 with Robin is going to probably outweigh a little bit more, especially in this current Memory of Chaos 12 enemies against the Quiet, right? With that, we have come to the end of today's content. Let me know what you guys think of March 7. Me personally, I think that she's just there to be a fun unit to use, right? Just to mingle around, change paths, have a little bit of a goofy armor. Might not be the exactly most meta DPS unit, but hey, if you guys want to just try out this interesting mechanic, then feel free to go ahead and try it out yourselves, right? So leave that down in the comments or join the Discord, discord.g/PokkeSwitch. Very active community, talk about honkaistarrail on a daily basis. Join Twitch, join Discord, all that. All the best for your gacha pools, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.